Knights Templar, the buried secret that changed humanity's fate. In the dim silence where forgotten kingdoms fade into dust and ancient stones whispered truths older than scripture, the Knights Templar rise not as warriors of medieval legend, but as guardians of a revelation so immense it trembled beneath the very foundation of history. Picture their armored silhouettes descending into subterranean corridors carved by civilizations older than memory, torches flickering against symbols no scholar of their era could decipher. What they uncovered beneath ruined sanctuaries was not gold, nor relics, nor fragments of holy text. It was a secret capable of shifting humanity's destiny, a truth so disruptive that kings feared it, popes condemned it, and entire institutions felt their authority cracking under its silent weight. As the Templars carried this forbidden knowledge across continents, sealing it inside hidden vaults and encoded manuscripts, their mission transformed. They no longer served thrones, they served a truth the world was never meant to see. And tonight, that truth rises once more from centuries of concealment, drawing you into the same storm that once threatened to collapse the medieval order from within. Picture the panic spreading through royal courts as rumors surfaced of Templar discoveries buried beneath ancient ruins, discoveries revealing origins of humanity that dismantled the illusions of divine authority upholding kings and empires. While armies marched outward and inquisitors crafted accusations in candlelit chambers, the Templars fortified secret archives, locked artifacts behind stone walls, and guarded manuscripts encoded with symbols older than any alphabet known at the time. When betrayal finally struck and the order was hunted like prey, their enemies sought not their wealth, but their knowledge, the kind that could fracture every structure built on obedience, fear, and unquestioned doctrine. Yet the secret slipped beyond reach, smuggled into the hands of those sworn to hide it until the world grew strong enough to face it. Centuries passed, empires fell, the maps of civilization rewrote themselves, but the Templar truth never died. Now, as excavations uncover symbols once buried in darkness and forgotten manuscripts resurface with impossible accuracy, the shadow of their secret expands once more. And as you step into this unfolding revelation, you will begin to understand why the Templars chose death over disclosure, because some secrets do not merely change history, they rewrite the fate of humanity itself. In the quiet corridors of time, where ancient dust clings to broken stones and the echoes of forgotten kingdoms linger like fading prayers, the origins of the Knights Templar emerge wrapped in a veil of mystery that refuses to die. Long before their name carried the weight of fear and reverence, they were an order shaped by silencemen who walked between faith and secrecy, guided not only by duty but by the unsettling awareness that they had uncovered something the world was never meant to see. Their presence in the Holy Land was not merely military, it was investigative, almost archaeological. Driven by a hunger to understand the remnants of civilizations that predated every medieval chronicle. And it was there, beneath the fractured foundations of sacred ruins, that they encountered a discovery powerful enough to challenge the very structure of human belief, forcing them into a shadowed role they never sought but could never abandon. ChatGPT. As you journey into this story, imagine the faint glow of torches illuminating symbols carved by hands that lived thousands of years before the first Templar blade was forged. Imagine their heavy boots stepping across stone floors that concealed chambers filled with impossible inscriptions, patterns, and codices, so advanced they contradicted the accepted origins of faith, power, and knowledge. These knights returned to Europe changed, carrying manuscripts hidden beneath their armor and sealed relics that defied every doctrine upheld by the throne and the church. What they found was not a relic of worship, but a truth that rewrote the timeline of humanity. And from the moment these discoveries reached the Templar strongholds, their rise and influence became inevitable, as if the hidden forces of history themselves propelled them into a destiny far greater than any crown could control. ChatGPT. Yet, with every secret they preserved, tension grew, an invisible war between those who sought to protect humanity from the shock of forbidden knowledge and those who feared losing their authority if the truth surfaced. Monarchs sensed they could not command men who served a higher purpose. Clergy understood that the Templar discovery could fracture the narrative that upheld their spiritual power, and so whispers of danger followed the order wherever they built fortresses or opened new commanderies. The Templars were no longer simply knights. They had become silent custodians of a revelation capable of destabilizing kingdoms. Their actions became more guarded, their rituals more encrypted, and their missions more urgent, as if they sensed the world tightening its grip around them. ChatGPT. Rotarista. Now, as modern archaeology uncovers ruins once sealed by time and digitized manuscripts revive forgotten symbols, the path the Templars walked grows clearer and far more perilous. Their hidden knowledge was never destroyed. It was scattered, concealed in places where only the brave or the desperate would dare to search. This introduction opens the first door into their secret world, inviting you to follow the same trail etched by warriors who fought not just for survival, but for the protection of a truth powerful enough to reshape humanity's fate. As you take this step, prepare yourself. What lies ahead does not merely challenge history, it confronts the very foundation of how the human story has been told. In the shadows of a world rebuilt by countless empires, where the ruins of ancient civilizations lie buried beneath centuries of silence, the Knights Templar emerged as far more than the warrior monks described in common chronicles. Their footsteps echoed through forgotten sanctuaries. Their torches illuminated symbols carved long before medieval kingdoms drew their borders, and their mission unknown to the vast majority of their own men extended far beyond the battlefield. The origins of their greatest secret began not with a sword raised in battle, but with a descent into an underground chamber older than any scripture they had sworn to defend. What they found there would haunt the order for generations, binding them to a truth that breathed in the darkness, waiting for the moment the world would be capable of understanding it. This introduction is the threshold to that story, the door the Templars tried to keep closed, even as history forced them to guard it with their lives. As the order expanded across Europe, whispers followed their rise, whispers that they protected something greater than gold, greater than relics, greater even than the authority of kings. Those who encountered the Templars in the Holy Land often described them with a sense of uneasy respect, sensing a depth in their eyes that spoke of knowledge too vast for their era. Their return from distant territories carried not triumph but an unspoken weight, as if their discoveries pressed upon them with a responsibility they could not share. Behind the fortified walls of their commanderies, manuscripts were copied in absolute secrecy, relics were sealed behind coded locks, and councils met under moonless nights to discuss matters that never appeared in any official record. Their silence, more than their skill in battle, became the foundation of their power. But the truth they carried was not a passive secret. It moved like an undercurrent beneath the surface of medieval society. Kings who once thanked the Templars for saving their reigns began questioning the source of their confidence. Clergy, who depended on them, sensed a shifting balance in spiritual authority, as if the Templars had encountered something that challenged the traditional gatekeepers of divine knowledge. Suspicion grew, then fear, then hostility. The order that had been praised as the shield of Christendom began to be viewed as a silent empire within empires, guided by forces beyond the reach of earthly crowns. Their rituals became more guarded, their fortresses more isolated, their purpose more enigmatic, fuel for the growing tension that would one day erupt into their downfall. Yet even as persecution drew closer, even as powerful men plotted their destruction, the Templars held their ground, protecting the secret buried beneath the stones of ancient ruins. They understood that the revelation they unearthed would not only shatter medieval systems, it would alter humanity's understanding of itself. This first topic opens the gateway into their hidden world, revealing the earliest stages of a discovery so monumental that the Templars willingly chose death over betrayal. As you walk through this introduction, prepare to journey deeper into a truth that survived fire, torture, and centuries of suppression, a truth that now rises again, ready to confront the modern world with the same force that once shook the medieval age. When the Templars first descended into the concealed chambers beneath the Temple Mount, they expected to uncover remnants of ancient civilizations, broken pottery, scattered tools, perhaps forgotten scrolls. What they found instead defied every assumption their world held about human history. The symbols etched into the stone were not crude or primitive. They were precise, mathematical, aligned with celestial patterns medieval astronomy could not explain. Some inscriptions depicted cycles of the stars with an accuracy suggesting knowledge that predated even classical civilizations. Others hinted at a lineage of spiritual authority completely disconnected from the institutions that ruled medieval faith. The Templars realized quickly that they were standing before knowledge untouched by time. Knowledge that challenged not only religious doctrine, but the very narrative of how humanity came to understand the divine. And from that moment on, they understood that their mission had transformed into something far more dangerous than anyone had prepared them for. As they carried fragments of this discovery back to Europe, they did so with a reverence mixed with fear. The manuscripts they recovered were brittle, written in scripts no medieval scholar could readily decipher, bearing diagrams of constellations that matched neither the known maps of the sky nor the astrological systems accepted by the Church. Some depicted objects that seemed to merge spirituality with an understanding of nature that felt centuries ahead of its time, as if the Templars had uncovered a bridge between the physical and the divine. Those who studied the fragments in secret chambers within Templar fortresses described an overwhelming sense of standing at the edge of a revelation, too vast for their age. They copied what they could, hid what they must, and guarded every piece with their lives. In the silence of those stone rooms, the Templars felt something shift. The knowledge they carried was not of this era. It was a forgotten inheritance. But the deeper they explored, the more they realized how disruptive this inheritance truly was. Every clue they uncovered pointed toward a version of humanity's past that contradicted the Church's authority and challenged the legitimacy of monarchs claiming divine right. If the origins of spiritual knowledge were older than Scripture, if they were rooted in civilizations erased from history, then the institutions that governed medieval life were built upon an incomplete, perhaps manipulated, narrative. This possibility haunted the Templar leadership. It explained their sudden rise in influence, their unshakable confidence, and the growing hostility from those who sensed their authority slipping. The Templars had not only unlocked a door to ancient knowledge, they had placed themselves in direct conflict with the foundations upon which Europe built its identity. And yet, they pressed forward, not out of rebellion, but out of duty. They believed that the truth they uncovered belonged to humanity, not to institutions that feared losing power. But they also understood the catastrophic consequences of revealing it too soon. So they chose the only path they could, to protect the secret, to preserve it, and to guard it until the world was prepared to face a truth older than kingdoms, older than Scripture, older even than memory. Topic 2 marks the moment where the Templars crossed the threshold not merely as warriors of faith, but as custodians of a revelation that could alter the course of human destiny. As the Templars continued decoding the relics and manuscripts they recovered, a disturbing realization began to take shape. The symbols and diagrams did not belong to a single ancient culture, but to multiple civilizations separated by continents and millennia. Carvings discovered beneath the Temple Mount mirrored markings found in ruins across Europe, North Africa, and even distant regions whose existence medieval scholars barely acknowledged. It was as if an invisible thread connected knowledge scattered across the world, knowledge preserved in fragments, hidden in sacred sites, and intentionally concealed from the passage of time. The Templars knew immediately what this implied. Human civilization was far older, far more complex, and far more interconnected than the accepted histories of their era dared to admit. And the force behind this knowledge, whatever ancient order, priesthood, or culture had created, it was one that medieval Europe had never been prepared to confront. Inside the stone halls of their European strongholds, the most learned Templars gathered to analyze these patterns in secrecy. Their discoveries became even more unsettling when they realized that some of the encoded messages contained predictions, astronomical alignments, environmental cycles, and historical upheavals that matched events occurring hundreds of years after the inscriptions were created. Medieval minds could not comprehend such precision. Was it prophecy, advanced science, or remnants of a sophisticated civilization history had erased? The Templar leadership debated these possibilities behind closed doors, aware that revealing even a fraction of this knowledge would cause both the Church and the royal courts to erupt in panic. If humanity had inherited wisdom from a forgotten epic that predated all known kingdoms, then the Templars were no longer simply knights. They were guardians of a narrative that could append the entire medieval world. With each new puzzle piece they uncovered, the Templars realized they had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than they first believed. Their secret was no longer just an ancient discovery, it had become a threat to the institutions built on the illusion of unbroken spiritual authority. Kings ruled because they claimed divine rights. Priests ruled because they claimed to interpret divine truth. But the Templars held evidence that spirituality and the origins of human knowledge had existed long before both monarchs and clergy seized control of it. This revelation forced the order into a new role, protectors of a truth that could destabilize all of Europe if exposed. And so they fortified their archives, encoded their manuscripts with symbolism only the highest-ranking knights could decipher, and restricted access to the relics to a select inner circle who swore oaths deeper than loyalty, oaths of silence, sacrifice, and custodianship. But with secrecy came danger. Rumors began to spread among rival factions, whispered by spies and informants who caught fragments of conversations they could not fully understand. These whispers made their way to monarchs already wary of the Templars' wealth and autonomy. The Church, sensing the order drifting toward a source of authority outside its control, grew suspicious and fearful. The Templars had crossed a line, not through rebellion, but through knowledge that placed them above the powers governing Europe. Topic 3 reveals the moment their discovery became a threat, the moment their silence carried more weight than armies, and the moment the first shadows of their inevitable downfall began to take shape. As the Templars' secret knowledge spread quietly among the highest ranks of the order, the tension surrounding them grew into a silent storm. Their fortresses, once open symbols of protection for pilgrims and travelers, became fortified sanctuaries where only the most trusted knights were granted access to hidden chambers. Beneath these commanderies, vaults were carved deeper into the earth, their walls lined with ancient stones etched in symbols older than any medieval alphabet. Torches flickered against relics wrapped in cloth and manuscripts sealed with wax-bearing coded sigils. Only a select circle of Templar elites, the Custodes, Archoni, as they were secretly known, were allowed to handle the artifacts. They were tasked not only with preservation, but with interpretation, and the findings that emerged from these underground rooms were more unsettling with each passing year. They suggested that the Templars had not merely uncovered fragments of forgotten history, they had rediscovered a map of human origins that pointed to civilizations erased, not by time, but by deliberate suppression. As their understanding deepened, the Templars began identifying connections that transcended geography. Sacred sites across Europe and the Middle East, cathedrals, temples, stone circles aligned with mathematical precision to celestial bodies, mirroring the same patterns found in the underground inscriptions. This was knowledge medieval Europe should not have possessed. Yet the Templars walked with the certainty of those who had glimpsed a blueprint of antiquity. Their construction of churches and fortresses began to follow the same hidden geometry, embedding cosmological symbols into doorways, windows, and floor patterns. Travelers felt something different in these structures without knowing why: an unseen energy, a sense of standing at the intersection of earth and sky. To the Templars, these architectural choices were not artistic. They were acts of preservation. They were trying to reassemble the fragments of ancient wisdom into a coherent whole before time or their enemies erased it forever. But the more they shaped their world with this hidden wisdom, the more the outside world noticed their unusual behavior. Kings who once admired the Templars' discipline now saw defiance in their independence. The Church, already uneasy with the Order's growing influence, began to question whether the Templars answered to divine authority or to something far older. Secret councils convened in candlelit rooms, where cardinals whispered about forbidden knowledge and heretical archives. Monarchs, worried that the Templars possessed a source of legitimacy beyond the crown, one that could threaten their thrones if revealed. What had once been admiration slowly turned into doubt, then fear, and finally, animosity. The Templars' silence, their secrecy, their sudden alignment to forces invisible to the medieval world, all these elements became weapons used against them in political courts. Meanwhile, within the Order, the knights sensed the tightening grip of danger. They knew their knowledge had become too powerful, too transformative, to remain unnoticed by institutions built on fragile foundations. Some Templars argued that the truth should be revealed to humanity, that the world deserved to understand its forgotten past. Others insisted that doing so would ignite wars, destroy kingdoms, and fracture the spiritual identity of an entire continent. In the end, duty prevailed over impulse. The Order chose to preserve the secret, even at the cost of their reputation, their freedom, and eventually their lives. Topic 4 reveals the moment the Templars stood at the crossroads of history. Aware that their discovery was not just a treasure but a catalyst powerful enough to reshape, or destroy, the medieval world if it ever reached the light. As pressure tightened around the Order, the Templars realized that the walls closing in on them were not built of stone or steel but of fear. Kings who once owed them fortunes began plotting their dismantlement in secret chambers. Priests who once blessed their missions now trembled at the thought of what the Templars might reveal. And the Templars themselves, forced deeper into silence, understood that their greatest threat was no longer an enemy on the battlefield, but the very institutions they once protected. Their secret was too explosive, too transformative, and too capable of unraveling the fragile balance of power that shaped medieval society. The Templars sensed they had reached a breaking point, a moment when the truth they carried could either elevate humanity into a new era of understanding or ignite a wave of destruction across kingdoms unprepared for revelation. It was in this tension that the Order's leadership began to devise a strategy of survival, one that prioritized not their own lives, but the preservation of the knowledge entrusted to them. Under the cover of moonless nights, select Templar leaders began relocating their most sensitive manuscripts and artifacts to hidden vaults across Europe. Some were concealed beneath remote monasteries in the Pyrenees. Others were transported to underground chambers accessible only through coded pathways inscribed into stone. A portion of their archives was loaded onto ships that vanished into the mist, never to be seen again, fueling centuries of speculation about the legendary Templar fleet. Every movement was calculated, quiet, and executed by knights who knew they might never see the Order again. Their goal was not escape, it was continuity. They believed that even if the Templars were destroyed, the truth they protected must survive. The relics were not objects. They were anchors, a link to an origin of humanity that institutional power had spent centuries burying. And as the Templars dispersed their knowledge, like seeds scattered across continents, they ensured that no force on earth could fully erase what they had uncovered. But secrecy came at a cost. Those who participated in these covert missions became targets long before official accusations were made. Informants planted by kings reported unusual activities within Templar command. The Church, sensing the Order's growing caution and independence, intensified its scrutiny. The political narrative began shifting rapidly. The Templars, once celebrated as the shield of Christendom, were now painted as heretics, sorcerers, and conspirators. These accusations were fabrications, but dangerously effective. They gave monarchs legal justification to seize Templar wealth and provided the Church a platform to dismantle a brotherhood that no longer bowed to its authority. The storm the Templars feared was no longer merely approaching, it had arrived, wrapped in the cloak of lies and armed with the machinery of medieval justice. Inside their strongholds, the Templars prepared for the inevitable. They fortified their defenses, protected their remaining archives, and sent coded warnings to distant commanderies. Yet even in the face of betrayal, they did not abandon their duty. They understood that their destruction was now unavoidable, but the truth they guarded was not. Their final acts were not of desperation, but of preservation, ensuring that their discovery would outlive the fires of persecution, the blades of executioners, and the centuries of rewriting that would follow their downfall. Topic 5 marks the moment when the Order, surrounded by enemies and hunted by fear-driven power, chose sacrifice over surrender, ensuring that the secret, capable of altering humanity's fate, would remain alive long after the Templars themselves were silenced. As the final embers of the Templar torch faded into the darkness of medieval persecution, what vanished before the eyes of kings and inquisitors was nothing more than the visible shell of the Order. The true heart of the Knights Templar, the secret they died to protect, did not burn with Jacques de Molay on the pyre. Like a whisper carried by the wind, it scattered across continents. Buried in vaults, encoded in manuscripts, and entrusted to men who vanished from history but never abandoned their vow. Their enemies celebrated the destruction of the Brotherhood, believing they had erased a threat, yet they never realized they had only severed the outer branches of a truth whose roots had already sunk too deep into the soil of humanity to ever be removed. The Templars understood that some revelations cannot be silenced by fire, steel, or decrees. They endure because they are woven into the structure of time itself. As the centuries unfolded, fragments of their secret resurfaced in the most unexpected places: symbolic patterns in Gothic cathedrals, mysterious inscriptions within forgotten chapels, and architectural alignments that mirrored constellations known only to ancient civilizations. Scholars dismissed these anomalies as coincidence, but those who looked deeper recognized the unmistakable fingerprint of a knowledge that refused to die. Even as the world changed through plagues, revolutions, renaissances, and the rise of modern science, the shadow of the Templars stretched quietly across history. They had succeeded in their last mission. The truth they guarded remained alive, protected by anonymity, waiting for a future age that could finally confront its meaning without collapsing under its weight. Their legacy was not destruction, it was preservation. And now, as archaeology, astronomy, and historical research converge in ways medieval minds could never imagine, the pieces of the Templar puzzle begin fitting together once more. What was once buried beneath ruins and sealed in cryptic manuscripts is rising again, not as a threat, but as a revelation, inviting humanity to reconsider its origins. The Templars were not merely warriors. They were custodians chosen by fate to bridge the forgotten past with the unfolding future. Their sacrifice ensured that humanity would one day be ready to face the truth they discovered, a truth powerful enough to reshape the way we understand identity, spirituality, and the invisible architecture guiding civilizations. In the silence they left behind, a message endures. Some knowledge is not meant to be controlled by the powerful, it is meant to awaken the world. Their legacy is not a relic locked away in dusty archives or a myth embroidered into legends. It breathes in the unanswered questions of history, in the symbols etched across continents, in the mysteries that still unsettle scholars today. The Knights Templar proved through their final act that true power does not lie in armies, crowns, or institutions. It lies in the courage to protect a truth that transcends the limits of an era. And because they chose sacrifice over surrender, silence over betrayal, and duty over survival, the secret they guarded continues to whisper through the centuries. It invites us to listen, to question, to seek. It reminds us that the fate of humanity can be transformed not by force, but by the persistence of those willing to guard knowledge meant for a world yet to come. Their legacy is immortal because the truth they carried is immortal, and its awakening has only just begun. Se quiser agora, posso criar a chamada para a ação, ou começar outro episódio templário com a mesma estrutura épica. If this journey through hidden vaults, forbidden manuscripts, and the untold truth of the Knights Templar ignited your curiosity, then stay with us, because the deeper we go, the darker and more astonishing the revelations become. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter of this unfolding mystery. Leave your like too. Help this story reach more seekers of truth, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your theories might illuminate a path we haven't explored yet. And if you want to support our work and unlock even more secret histories, consider joining our growing community. The story of the Templars did not end in the flames, and neither does our search for the truth.